Glasses in session. We go to the Glasser guest line and check in with Jonny Lazarus, who joins us. Give Johnny a follow on X at JLazzy23, host for the NHL and Daily Faceoff. Johnny, always great having you on, man. We got a rematch from last year's Stanley Cup Final between Edmonton and Florida. Which team are you more surprised is back here? Are you more surprised Florida got back to the final for the third straight year, or that Edmonton was able to get back?
Well, I had both teams losing in the first round, so I think it's fair to say both. But I would say the Oilers more so just because they were down 2-0 to LA. They looked like they were dead in the water. Kings have a 1-goal lead in the last minute of Game 3, and they blow it and then lose in overtime. Was that overtime or was? Yeah, I think it was overtime. But yeah, I mean, I thought the Oilers were done after the first two games of the first round, and the fact that they've gotten here, you know, with the way their goaltending has gone too. Stuart Skinner gets pulled after Game 2. Calvin Picker comes in and wins 6 straight. Then he gets hurt. Stuart Skinner comes back in. He looks good. They win in 5 games against Vegas. They win in 5 against Dallas. I mean, it's just been a crazy roller coaster of emotion for the Edmonton Oilers to get to this point. And yeah, I'd say they're the bigger surprise by far.
What do you think's the key factors for this series? Edmonton is going to win and hoist the cup if they do what, you think, and then Florida is going to repeat if they do what in this series?
Well, 5-on-5, I think both teams are a little bit more even than they may have been last year. That said, Florida's power play, I think, is the concern in this series so far. Edmonton's power play and PK has been, well, PK hasn't been as good, but the power play has been, pretty dynamic throughout the entire playoffs. The PK was very weak in round 1. But Edmonton's PK should be able to shut down Florida's power play. And then at the end of the day, it's the goaltending and the special teams that really get a team, over the hump. So the way Sergei Bobrovsky's been playing, he's been good. He hasn't been as unbelievable as he was last year. Stuart Skinner, when he's on his game, he's probably been better than Bobrovsky. I don't even know if that's a stretch to say. But the only issue with Edmonton's goaltending is that you don't know what Stuart Skinner you're going to get. So the inconsistency in net for Edmonton is a concern on their end. But right now, I still think it's harder to bet against Florida than it is against Edmonton. Obviously, it feels like McDavid and Draisaitl's time to get it done. But what we've seen throughout the playoffs, and granted, since the first 2 games, Edmonton's been pretty sound and pretty consistent. There's just always that fear in the back of your mind that we might see that sloppy Oilers team that we have seen at certain points this year, where Florida has been pretty steady the entire way. So I do like the Panthers, but my heart does want the Oilers.
Any X factors in this series, Johnny? Like outside of the superstars, right? You got McDavid and Draisaitl, you got Tkachuk, you got Bobrovsky, as you mentioned. I remember when you were on, we were talking about the 4 nations. You talked about Marchand for Canada, all the superstars on both sides. You said he was the guy. Anybody in this series that comes to mind flying under the radar you think could end up making a big impact?
Well, it's the third line for Florida. It's all 3 of those players. You can't really pick one. It's, everyone's talking about the depth between the 2 teams right now, and I think Florida's third line between Lundell, Luosterainen, and Marchand, who you just mentioned, PJ, like those guys are the difference makers. They were the best line in the second round against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Marchand actually led the entire playoffs in points in that round. And he's a guy that they brought at the deadline for this exact purpose, for this reason. Marchand's been a top 6 player, power play guy his whole career, or for the most parts of his career, but he was brought in here to be that impactful third-line player that helps you win a Stanley Cup, and he, alongside Luosterainen and Lundell, those guys each have double-digit in points in the playoffs, where you don't really see that all the time from the third line, and to me, Edmonton stopping those 3 is going to be a huge problem, and I think they're the X factor, a difference maker for Florida.
Johnny, whenever we get series like this in any sports, I always like thinking about if one side is correlated with the total, right? Because the perception around these 2 teams, you think Edmonton, you think offense. You think Florida, think a little bit more defense, a little bit more goaltending. In this series, do you think if we see Edmonton win, maybe we bet the over? If we see Florida, maybe the under, or not necessarily so? Because as you mentioned, Skinner's been playing really well for the Oilers, and the Panthers obviously been winning some shootouts as well.
Well, for the most part, I feel like that was the case last year. Every game the Oilers won was an over or high scoring, and I think for the most part, the games the Panthers won were pretty much low scoring games. Maybe game 4 was a different case, or game 3 was a different case. I think game 3 was a 4-3 final, so maybe that one was an over. But everything else, to your point, it was hand in hand. So I don't know if, history doesn't always repeat itself, right? So I don't know if that's going to be the case this time around. Goaltending was a bit more of a concern last year for Edmonton than it is this year for the Oilers. It's the same guy in net, but he's been playing so much better this time around. So I don't want to necessarily say it's automatic that those will go hand in hand, but the Oilers have won games 2-1, 3-2. Like they've been able to win games in low scoring fashion. So last year I would have said probably more likely than this year. And with that, I think Edmonton, they could come out and win the low scoring games like they haven't in recent history.
We're talking with Jonny Lazarus here on Send It In. Give Johnny a follow on X at JLazzy23. All right, Johnny, let's look at the Conn Smythe market. And this was really interesting last year, right? Florida wins the Cup. McDavid wins Conn Smythe. Not often you get a player winning Conn Smythe on a losing team. He's the favorite again to win Conn Smythe this year. Who do you like in that market to win the award?
Well, for a sleeper, I'm looking at a guy like Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett actually leads the entire playoffs in goals with 10. He has 16 points in 17 games. He's been a super impactful player for the Panthers the entire postseason, and I think he's, another one of those guys who could be considered an X factor, even though he is kind of a bigger, I don't want to say maybe a bigger name, but he's certainly a player that gets talked about night in, night out, just with, what he does for this Panthers team. He's an upcoming free agent, so a lot of talks with him surrounding his next contract and where he'll sign as well. But Sam Bennett, to me, like he could be the guy that actually leads this series in points. He's capable of that. He has that much talent. I believe he's like plus 2,800 to win the Conn Smythe right now. And if Florida wins, to me, there's no clear-cut guy on Florida who has the edge right now. Like Barkov's been playing great, Bennett's been playing great, Kachuk's been good, and Bobrovsky's been good. But I would actually say that Bennett, in my opinion, has been the best player consistently throughout the playoffs for Florida. So if I'm picking the Panthers to win the Cup, I'm picking Sam Bennett to win the Conn Smythe.
30-1, Johnny, to win Conn Smythe. As you mentioned, some pretty good odds on that if you like Florida. Who do you like in Game 1 tomorrow? Edmonton, a favorite at home, minus 130, total 6. Who do you think takes Game 1?
I do like the Panthers. Both teams have had a pretty significant layoff. I don't think either team has the edge as far as rest goes, but being that Edmonton is on home ice in Game 1, knowing that the pressure is mostly on them in this series. Florida's obviously won a cup last year. They've been to now 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, and obviously those guys all do want to win it. But Edmonton knows, like, we haven't won. This is our chance, and you want to set a good standard for the series in Game 1. And sometimes Florida, the way they play, they smell blood in the water, they attack, and there's nobody better than them in the NHL at that. So for me, the Panthers come out and surprise on the road in Game 1, and I think they take the series in 6 games.
All right, love it. There you go. You like the Panthers in 6 games. Do you think that McDavid, if he doesn't win the Cup this year, Johnny, do you think he's ever going to get it? Do you think at some point in his career, or this is going to be his best chance to get his Cup?
I do. I have a hard time saying he'll never win a Cup. And, it's easy to say this is his best chance, but, last year they played in a winner-take-all Game 7. Like, that felt like it, right? Like, it's not going to get any closer than that. With that said, this year, Edmonton having home ice, the playoffs not being as emotional as it was last year, like it's been very more business-like for the Oilers this time around, knowing what it's like having gone through it last year. So obviously a great opportunity in front of Connor McDavid and the Oilers right now. But if it doesn't happen this year, I think it still will happen at some point. I don't know if it'll happen in Edmonton, but it'll happen somewhere.
There you go. Jonny Lazarus, always great having him join us, previewing the Stanley Cup Final, the rematch between Edmonton and Florida. Make sure you guys are following Johnny on X at JLazzy23, host of the NHL and Daily Faceoff as well. Johnny, always appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the Cup Final.
Thanks, BJ. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. You too. All right, guys. Let's keep it rolling here on Send It In. See, we got some questions coming in on the chat. B-Mills, I love that it's a Tuesday. We're going to talk some golf. We'll get to your question a little bit later on, some baseball as well. Reed, you got a great question, though, in the chat. Every market in both the NBA and NHL feel locked in. Are there any creative ways to bet these series? It's true, right? We've had a long layoff for both. We're still waiting for both of these series to start. NHL tomorrow, NBA on Thursday. We're going to focus on the NHL today. Stanley Cup Final. We'll look at the NBA tomorrow. And Reed, the way that I'm betting this series and the way that I'm betting at the NBA, our friends at BetMGM, a great special that I absolutely love because I like both underdogs in Game 1 to win outright, but then I like the home teams and the favorites to win the series. So at BetMGM, if you like the Panthers to win Game 1, but the Oilers to win the series, that's plus 400. Like, what a great price that is. Because think about it right now. Edmonton's minus 125 to win the series, right? And Florida's plus 110 to win Game 1. Let's say Edmonton loses Game 1. They go from minus 125 to probably like plus 160, plus 170. Even if they lose Game 1, they certainly can come back and win the series. I just think that's a great price. Bet Florida. Game 1, Edmonton to win the series, plus 400. It's a BetMGM special. I think those are the creative ways that I would look to bet these series. I think that's where the value is. If you like these underdogs to win outright in Game 1, don't bet the outright on the price, and then you like the favorite to win the series. Don't just bet the underdog to win Game 1 outright. Bet that special. Bet them to win Game 1 and then the Thunder or the Oilers to win the series. I think it's great for this series. Again, because the swing, certainly Edmonton's going to become the underdog if they lose Game 1 for the series price, but they're going to be like a plus 150, plus 160. They're certainly not going to be plus 400 heading into Game 2. So, and even if they lose Game 2, I don't know if they're still going to even be plus 400. Maybe they will, maybe like plus 350 or something like that. I just think that's a great price. So that's the way I would bet these series, because now that we've had so many days to preview them, like you said, really no angle, really no edge. At this point, the lines are so sharp. We've had so many games, not only regular season, but postseason on all these teams. I think those specials are the way to go. So I love that. Florida to win Game 1, Edmonton to win the series, plus 400 at BetMGM. Some other things that I like as well for tomorrow, I just like Florida to win Game 1. I really do, plus 110. For everything that Johnny was saying, right? Game 1, long layoff, all the pressure on Edmonton. They're at home. But guys, look, I mean, when I'm a believer in this, I've talked about this a ton on the show, especially when you have a rematch in a championship game and you're trying to beat the team that beat you last year. Like, it's not going to be easy. Edmonton's not going to sweep Florida. They're not going to win this series in 5 games. They're going to be trailing at some point in this series, whether they're down 0-1 or whether they're down 2-1 or maybe they're down 3-2, whatever it is. I think they're going to be trailing at some point in this series, and I think they're going to be trailing after Game 1. I think right now we're pretty split amongst perception on who thinks going to win this series. I think after Game 1, though, I like Florida to win, and then the conversation heading into Thursday morning is going to be, why do we doubt Florida? Why do we bet against this team? They're giving us Florida's underdogs. Why do we continue to not bet them? And then that's when we jump on the Oilers. I think they're the better team this year around. This is the best goaltending that McDavid and Draisaitl have had throughout a postseason run, and I think that's finally what's going to get them over the hump. So I like Florida Game 1, Edmonton to win the series. I think they win the Cup. I like Stuart Skinner to win the Conn Smythe at 35-1. I think that's a silly price. If you like Florida, I think Johnny made a great case for Sam Bennett. Certainly at that price at 30-1. Tkachuk is not healthy. He's not his normal self. Barkov's a terrific player, but I don't know if he's going to rack up the points in this series playing on that first line with Tkachuk to get him Conn Smythe. And Bobrovsky at plus 250, I just think there's real no value in that. The fact that one goalie in this series is plus 250 and the other goalie in this series is 35-1, I think Skinner is the play for Edmonton if you're looking for somebody outside of McDavid or Draisaitl. So those are some of the plays that I like in Oilers and Panthers.